African leaders are meeting in Mali's capital to discuss military options to drive rebels out of the north. But will military force in northern Mali solve the problem, or will it only make things worse? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hazem Sika. The United Nations Security Council has given West African countries 45 days to come up with a military plan for driving out rebels from northern Mali. African and European leaders are meeting in the capital, Bamako, working on those details. There's been intense fighting in northern Mali since April when army officers deposed President Amadou Touré. Groups linked to al-Qaeda forced out Tuareg rebels in July and took control of the main northern city of Timbuktu. In August, a national unity government was formed under Prime Minister Sheikh Modibo. And this month, the UN Security Council called for military intervention to retake the north. Mohammed Val has more now.
Mali is one of the poorest countries in Africa. And this year it saw its civilian government removed by a military coup and 2/3 of its territory lost to armed groups, some of whom linked to Al-Qaeda. But here in Bamako, a momentum is being created by regional and international powers to help Mali get back on its feet. A conference attended by delegations from the African Union, the EU, the UN and the Economic Group of West African Nations, ECOWAS. Last week, the United Nations Security Council gave Mali and its regional allies 45 days to draw a comprehensive plan of action for a military intervention. Today's meeting is intended to help draw that plan. The goal is to take back the northern Azawad region from the hands of armed groups and return it to the control of the central government in Bamako. The UN said it will fund part of the campaign and provide some expertise to the Africans. The EU promises to send military trainers and is even mulling the idea of participating with some troops. France, which is spearheading the political campaign, says it will assist with logistics. But they all agree that the fighting on the ground should be done by the Africans themselves, led by the Malian army. The conference is, however, expected to renew an offer for a peaceful dialogue with the nationalist Tuareg rebels in an effort to distance them from other armed groups allegedly linked to Al-Qaeda. People here in Mali are watching these moves with a mixture of hope and fear. Hope to see their nation reunified, and fear that foreign military intervention could turn their country into another Afghanistan. Mohammed Fad, Al Jazeera, Bamako.
Now, on Wednesday, the new leader of the African Union, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, said talks will be held with all the stakeholders, but she didn't commit to the use of military force.
Well, I think the African Union wants to work with Mali, with the UN, with ECOWAS, so that we can all come to some consensus about the way forward. We would like Mali to accompany Mali as it tries to regain its territorial integrity. We would like to accompany it when it goes to national election. We would like to accompany it when it's trying to make sure that post the conflict there is work that's done, development and so on.
Well, a week ago, the president of Senegal said progress was being made towards an intervention.
ECOWAS forces will constitute a great part of the intervention force, together with the Mali army, which will be reorganized and reinforced. But we will also have the contribution of other countries in the region, who are border countries with Mali, and even African Union member countries who are prepared to bring their contribution to establishing the African force. France and other partner countries' support will have a determining role and will of course contribute to the success of the force in North Mali.
So will military intervention put an end to the conflict in northern Mali, or will it just make things worse? Well, to help us answer that question, we're joined by our three guests in Geneva. Alexandre Vautravers, a professor of international relations at Webster University. Mr. Vautravers is also the editor of the Swiss Military Review. In London, Hidrissa Cherif Haidara, a member of the Mali Community Council in the UK. And on Skype from the Nigerian capital, Abuja, we're joined by Sunny Ugoh, Director of Communications for the Economic Community of West African States, better known as ECOWAS. Good to have you all with us, gentlemen. Sunny Ugoh, if I could start with you. What can we expect out of these talks? And if a firm decision is made, when can we expect it?
Well, in your introductory remarks, you did say that the UN has given us 45 days to try and sort out some elements of the planning for the deployment of the force. That's exactly what that meeting is going to do, harmonize the positions and perspectives between the UN, the AU, and the ECOWAS. I should point out that there has always been a document on the basis of which ECOWAS has been planning to deploy. And that is a document that we have taken to the UN twice, and which they said we needed to fine-tune in order to address certain shortcomings. And we believe that the meeting in Mali today in Bamako will try and tidy up this in order to be able to respond to the specific demands of the UN Security Council so that we can deploy as quickly as possible.
All the indications are at the moment that some form of military action seems to be the way forward as far as dealing with rooting out the rebels in northern Mali. But is military action the only thing that is being discussed?
Not discussed. Don't forget, since this situation broke out in March, the leader of Burkina Faso was appointed as a mediator for the Mali crisis. On the table, we've always had dialogue with the separatists in the north, and then we always had the possibility of a military intervention. And our position is that carrot and stick. Let's see which one works. If the carrot works, fair enough. We will save ourselves the trouble of having to deploy 3,300 troops there and having to incur the expenses of having to sustain those, in addition to the logistic requirements. But if it doesn't work, we believe that there is no option to a military intervention if dialogue doesn't work. And we can't, of course, there have been noises made about by those who are in control of the North about their willingness to engage in dialogue. We believe that we want to believe that this is genuine. And if this is genuine, they should demonstrate that in practice. If we see that in practice, then it becomes difficult for us to decide the second option, which is the option of military intervention. But if we don't, then I'm afraid they will have to go the way of military intervention.
Hidrissa Cherif Haidara, what's your take on this? Do you favor some sort of military action in northern Mali?
Well, the military action, actually, this is the last solution, because the Malian government tried to get like a lot of approach, and those approach didn't work. This is the last thing. And as I said previously, we need this logistic. And last day, we had our logistic from Conakry and the plan from UN too. So we hope those things gonna work. And in the ground, I believe, and every Malian rely on our army, and we think we can do it in the ground. But in the air, obviously, we need Western help. But the one is not like, this is the last solution, and we have to do it, because those people in the north of the country, they won't let it go like that easily. So this is the only solution, actually, I think.
A lot of the indications are in the reports that we're getting from northern Mali is the treatment that many people are enduring under some of these groups imposing their own laws on the country, and we're getting reports that some of it has been quite brutal. Isn't there a sense there that they would prefer a government in Bamako to step in and retake control?
Oh, of course, because this situation is getting worse and worse. And as you said, like, they cut people's hand, and there's a lot of rape. And actually, the enrolled child, 15 year or 14 years child in the army. This is not normal. Those atrocities, we have to stop that. Actually, we had a lot of speech. I think the time's for the action, and action is, we have to do it like right now. Today, we have all those countries meeting in Bamako, And we're waiting for this result. And I'm sure that will be, that will go on that way, like go and take over the north of the country. There's not another solution. There is no negotiation, no nothing here. This is the only solution.
Alexandre Vautravers, what's your take on this? Do you think military action is the only option here?
Well, I think we're really witnessing a phase of escalation of the conflict. And up until a year ago, this was really an internal conflict. There were possibilities of negotiating. There were hostages. But after all is said and done, it was really the responsibility of the national government to solve the issue. This year, or these past few months, we have witnessed really the extent of this conflict really going into a regional crisis, because many of the neighboring countries are now engulfed in it through one way or another. And more recently, because perhaps of the French elections, because of all sorts of other political issues, because of some of the images that are coming from northern Mali, this has now become an international community issue. I will just remember that there was already a plan for action which from ECOWAS that was eventually turned down by the international community. The United Nations, the United States were not very warm towards an intervention a few months ago. It now seems that it is the reverse. And the international community, France, of course, but other countries as well, are really pushing the regional powers, the regional neighbors of Mali to intervene and pressuring the Malian government to step in.
Do you think the Malian government right now, the way it is made up at the moment, is in a position to really deal with this, or does it need much more outside help?
If you ask the question, I would say clearly no, because there is an issue of legitimacy. There's a question of governance in Mali. There is also the fact that the armed forces of Mali are nowhere near the capabilities of solving the issue. Let me say also that even the regional efforts that are being attempted, the discussions that are taking place today, we have to perhaps put this in perspective. We are talking about the mobilization, the generation of a force from ECOWAS countries of about 3,300 troops. This is extremely insufficient vis-à-vis the task at hand.
Let's put that then to Hidrissa Cherif Haidara. Isn't this part of the problem? The fact that Mali, the perception anyway, is that Mali has no credible leaders in Bamako at the moment?
This thing, like those politicians and those military, actually the situation is quite complex. And the northern problem, Bamako have its part, of course. But first of all, I think we have to handle the problem of the north, or the problem of Timbuktu, Gao, and all those areas first. And after that, we can go back to those problems in Bamako. But the first problem, we have to take over the north of the country, and because it's a big mess there, and you will see there's a lot of atrocity, and we can't really accept that. And those people, they are very extreme. I said before, our country, we are 90% of the population are Muslim, and we are soft. We don't need this kind of extremist thing. We are all Malian. The unity, this is our aim, actually. So if those people, they want another thing, we will take them out from our country. This is the only solution, actually. But those politics and those leadership thing in Bamako, this is a second thing, I think, for the moment, because the situation is it's worse. It's getting worse and worse every day.
Sunny Ugoh, I want to bring up one of the criticisms that's been made of ECOWAS, the group that you represent, this group of West African nations, and one of it is that that there are plenty of good intentions there, meetings, proposals, and so on, but the rebels have taken control of northern Mali for the better part of 6 months now, and they haven't produced, your group hasn't produced any convincing results in trying to change that. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that would be unfair. Some of the issues that have come up now we anticipated long ago when this crisis broke out. The issue about building cohesion in Mali, it was on that basis that we insisted that they should have a government of national unity to precede the process of the deployment of MISEMA. We also insisted that the government then, the new government of national unity, must necessarily ask for the assistance of ECOWAS for us to also intervene, because that is at least one of the requirements of our regional protocol. But I should say that by way of emphasis, that one of the issues we also anticipated was the fact that the region, the crisis that we have in Mali is different in complexion from what we have dealt with in the region in the past. I mean, be fair to us, we've had to deal with situations in Liberia, we have to deal with situations in Sierra Leone. But this is a little bit complex. Complex to the extent that you have a mix of Al-Qaeda elements, you have traffickers, both in human beings and in arms, and then you have separatists from the north. The issue of separatism from the north of Mali is not new. I mean, this is about the third time that this is cropping up. Even the deposed president, President Atete, himself at one point had to deal with the issue of separatists in the north. And then they had a national dialogue, and around the national dialogue, there were destruction of arms just to show good faith, and then on the basis of which there was the expectation that a new Mali will emerge from that. And some of us were a little bit taken aback when the coup of March happened, because we were comfortable in the belief that Mali was coasting home in terms of democracy. Don't forget, I mean, this happened just on the eve of elections, about a month to elections. I mean, I'm talking about the coup now that set us on this path. But the point is that we also indicated that in spite of our experience in regional peacekeeping, there's a sense of fatigue. I mean, this is, like I pointed out previously, this is a region that has almost 12, 13 member states who are characterized as least developed. These are very poor countries who are working desperately to survive economically, and who now have to fork out some money to be able to deal with the issues of peace and security, which they did in Sierra Leone, which they did in Liberia, and they've had to do in Guinea-Bissau, and they also have to resolve problems in Guinea. There is a sense of fatigue from the point of view of contribution. And our sense was, okay, can we have the international community, the UN Security Council, give us a Chapter 7 mandate for us to be able to deal with the situation, which is peculiar and different from our experience in terms of peacekeeping operations, and then to also allow us to be able to leverage international logistics and international support in other ways to be able to deal with the situation. That we don't have. And as I speak, the international community is there's a sense of even division within the international community. There are some elements of the international community who feel that, okay, let's handle this situation one way, and some others feel we should deal with it another way. But believe me, the ECOWAS position, which everybody is now coming to recognize.
All right, I want to. Sorry to interrupt you there, Sunny Ugoh. I just want to put that point then to Alexandre Vautravers. Is that true? Do you think that the international community's position on this could be a lot more united?
As I said, I think the international community, or the majority of the international community, has changed its position regarding Mali from really a wait-and-see attitude and an attempt at resolution of the conflict or preventing the conflict, now to a stance where a lot of pressure is being put on the Malian government and also on the region to solve the issue. I think if division there is a lot of division between the neighboring countries of Mali, and when within ECOWAS. I'll just give you a few examples. Most of these countries are actually extremely worried of the spillover of this conflict outside of the Malian borders. We also know for a fact that many of the Al-Qaeda operatives, organizations, in particular also the weapons that are arming these groups, have come from Libya. Sika have come also from Algeria. So it is also very upsetting to see that without a regional consensus, there can be no resolving the issue in Mali. The Algerian government has been extremely effective at combating terrorist groups, and this is why now these terrorist groups, not being able to operate on Algerian soil, have migrated south to Mali. So there can really only be a solution on a regional scale.
Do you see it that way, Hidrissa Cherif Haidara? If we talk about some of these neighbouring countries, namely Algeria, as Alexandre Vautravers mentioned, what is your position on what Algeria is doing here? Could they do more?
Oh, actually, I think Algerian people, they don't want the Western people involved inside, because they do care about their integrity, and I can understand this fact. But actually, we need them because they are very efficient about those tactics. And the north of Mali is very, 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 very vast, and we can't control them because actually Mali is a poor country. We're struggling, and we can make all of the money to those army budget. There was a lot of budget cut since '92, if I remember. And Algeria, they are, if I can say that, in this region, they are the most powerful. They have the most powerful army, so they can help us too. But I think they have their own problem. And if we Malian, we take them, those extreme people from our country, they will go for sure to Algeria, Niger, or maybe to Libya, or those kind of problems. This is a big issue. Actually, I'm asking myself how they're going to handle this situation, because it's this is the real problem.
Sunny
I don't know
Ugoh,
if you get me.
Sunny Ugoh, let's talk a bit more then about the logistics of this. I mean, if military action is the decision that's made, if it's decided that this is the only option that can be taken in taking back northern Mali for the government in Bamako, there are a lot of criticisms of the Malian army at the moment, that they are divided, they lack discipline, they lack unity, they're poorly equipped. I mean, all of these issues are going to have to be dealt with before any decision on military intervention, because you're talking as well about an area of land the size of France. Yeah.
The point is that if you allow me, let me just take a step back to respond to the issue raised by Alexander in his own contribution, and that is to the illusion of a division within the community. There is no such thing. There is a consensus around the regional response to the situation in Mali, and that is the reason why we approached it in three dimensions. One, we said, okay, we will deploy in Bamako, help them to secure their institutions, help them to build their capacity, the Malian security services, and support them to be able to recover the north. That is the regional position. That has always been the regional position, and nothing has changed from that. But I should add and even within the context of our position, we have always recognized the role of other parties, other neighbors to the resolution of it. That was why the meetings we've had on how to deal with the Malian crisis, we've always involved Mauritania and Algeria, because we believe that they have something to bring to the table.
All right, now, sorry to interrupt. You made your point about what you feel is a unity among the other nations, but I want to ask you about this criticism of the Malian army. What does ECOWAS plan to do if military action is taken? A lot more needs to be done to strengthen that army.
Yeah, I just made the point that we intend to build their capacity. There's a wide recognition across the board that the Malian army is fractured. It's in a sense not as professional as it should be, and in the sense not as responsive to hierarchy as it should be. That is why one of the three pegs on which we're basing our intervention is to build the capacity of the Malian army, so that we will restore confidence in the army, we will restore their professionalism, and we will restore their ability to fight, to support, so that we can support them to deal with the situation in the north of their country.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Thank you to all three of our guests. In Geneva, Alexandre Vautravers; in London, Hidrissa Cherif Haidara; and in Abuja, Sunny Ugoh. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. Remember, if you want to have your say, just email your thoughts to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. I'm Hazem Sika. Thanks for watching. From all of the team, bye for now.